Have you heard about the data center coming?
Yeah, everybody concerned about it.
When I noticed my electric bill gone up, I started asking my neighbors, is your bill also going up? And they had no idea.
We're all subsidizing the wealthiest corporations in the world in their pursuit of artificial intelligence.
Across the U.S. and around the world, vast windowless buildings are rising on the edge of communities. They look like warehouses, but they're not. They're the big, bulging brains of the digital age, the hidden infrastructure powering your food pics, your goofy selfies, and your AI slop. These data centers promise jobs and investments and progress. But the story beneath that glossy artificial intelligence hood is far darker, one that counters nearly every good thing you've heard from billionaires forcing this non-human, extraction-driven theft revolution upon the public. What happens when these facilities are conceived in secrecy, protected by non-disclosure agreements, subsidized by taxpayers, and leave entire communities to shoulder the energy, environmental, and financial cost? This is the story of a quiet transfer of wealth from towns and families who never saw it coming and never asked for it to corporate giants already richer than entire nations. Let's dig in.
Rage, power, weakest, falls, money-driven, major fraud.
Many of these massive projects start with three little letters, NDA, Latin for keep your mouth shut. According to the American Economic Liberties Project, when the City Council of Gallatin, Tennessee approved nearly $20 million in tax breaks for something called Project Woolhawk, no one knew who was behind it. Months later, the beneficiary turned out to be Meta Platforms, the shadier rebranded version of the shady Facebook thing that now owns about everything. Why would one of the richest corporations on earth need a subsidy from ordinary taxpayers? Do we really want those living in poverty or even the middle class or seniors on a fixed income footing the bill for upgrades that are only necessary because a giant corporation wants to muscle in on a community's resources? No, we don't want that. We would never allow that. That's why NDAs are important. Once a piece of important paper has the signature of a certain person, the law has been shifted away from defending the people, even though the people didn't sign a damn thing. These NDAs violate a fundamental principle of local democracy by blocking citizens from knowing or influencing how public money is used. Meaning your mayor or some other position could have already promised your town's water, power, and tax base to a multinational company and you wouldn't even know it. Guess what else you won't know? You won't know what that mayor or elected official received to allow this doom cloud to consume your region. It all happens in the dark. Standard policy analysis show that at least 36 states have special tax incentives for data center development. Most have no sunset dates, no job requirements, and no public disclosure rules. So, a corporation can promise the moon, break those promises, and still keep the benefits. Quick break from the video. This is a very small channel, and I'm thrilled with every single subscriber that I have. But I need to get to 500 and then ultimately to 1,000 so that YouTube will take more of an interest in promoting these stories to other people like you. Thank you. In Wisconsin, one such deal even concealed the end user, the actual company, from public view. Why hide a name if there's nothing to hide? Local officials are sometimes asked to approve these multi-million-dollar packages without knowing the full cost. Translated into real life, your elected leaders can agree to build new substations and power lines for billion-dollar companies, and the ratepayers, the people, end up footing the bill. Your $150 bill quietly becomes $1,200. Imagine for a second that I'm your neighbor. I put in 1 million computers to mine for Bitcoin. Plus, I had some stadium lights for security and 20 hot tubs running full blast 24/7 for all my tech bros. My electricity bill spikes to $20,000 a month. Who pays that? Well, you're probably thinking I should pay that, right? I'm the one using the electricity, and that makes sense. Except in this analogy, I've got a sweet deal that says you and everyone on my block will be responsible for the increase, not me. Plus, you have to upgrade the grid so I don't experience any downtime with my crypto mining. Yeah, it's exactly like that, but much worse. This is how wealth transfers upward. Ordinary citizens finance corporate infrastructure without fair exchange or representation. And somehow, this seismic theft is considered legal. Let's cast our eyes towards Iowa. Reports show that the state hands out at least $150 million every year to data center tax breaks. Yet many of those projects have uncertain long-term benefits. No one knows if they'll ever yield enough local value to offset the giveaways. Politicians love to sell these projects with the word jobs. Jobs are coming, good-paying jobs. So many jobby jobs, jobs. But those jobs rarely materialize, and when they do, they're few and lack the salary that can produce real change for the citizens. Business Insider found that the U.S. data centers typically employ fewer than 150 permanent workers, while public incentives can exceed $2 million per job. Let that sink in. Taxpayers fund corporate campuses where each permanent position costs millions in subsidies, and most of those jobs pay roughly $50 to $60K a year. Did you catch that? It's tricky and it's hard to notice because it's so brazenly awful. I had to go back and do some research to make sure I was clear on what I thought that meant, and it's far more devastating than it sounds. Get this, when a big tech company builds a data center, local leaders will proudly announce, "We're bringing in hundreds of new jobs, so many jobs, jobby jobs for everyone." But here's what's really happening behind that shovel stomping or ribbon cutting ceremony. These companies are often given hundreds of millions of dollars in public subsidies, free land, decades of property tax exemptions, discounted electricity, and brand new water lines paid for by taxpayers or the people who live there. And when you divide all of that public money by the tiny number of actual full-time jobs created, the math is shocking. I bet it still hasn't landed with you. Here's the rub-a-dub-dub. In some towns, each one of those jobs, each single person employed, costs $2 million in tax breaks. $2 million. That means the local government is literally giving away the equivalent of 30 to 40 years of wages to host a single job that pays maybe $50,000 to the individual who got the job. Here's a real-world example. In Council Bluffs, Iowa, Google got about $850 million in incentives to build its data center. It created fewer than 400 permanent jobs. That's roughly $2.1 million in public giveaways for every single job, most of which pay around $55,000 a year. Do you get it now? A community gives Google, who already has all the money, $2.1 million. Then Google gives a dude $55K for a security job. What has Google actually done in the community for this scenario? Nothing. But the money that was in the community has gone, and it ain't coming back. These aren't bustling factory floors of America's golden age of manufacturing. They're sealed boxes largely run on automation. A recent Wired investigation described a 4 million square foot Meta data center approved in Richmond Parish, Louisiana. The project required new natural gas turbines and a $550 million transmission line funded by public money, yet carried no binding job commitments for the locals. That's economic development 21st century style. Privatize the profit, socialize the expense. You've heard the data centers are the backbone of the internet. What you haven't heard is how thirsty they are. A single hyperscale facility can use up to 5 million gallons of water a day for cooling, enough to supply tens of thousands of homes. In Loudoun County, Virginia, the world's densest cluster of data centers consumed about 1.85 billion gallons in 2003. That water turns to vapor in cooling towers. It's gone from the local watershed forever. In the Dalles, Oregon, Google's centers now draw over a quarter of the city's entire supply, a fact revealed only after residents sued for transparency. In Mesa, Arizona, Meta's desert campus is somehow permitted for roughly 1 million gallons per day in a region already suffering from a lack of water. Multiply that across hundreds of sites nationwide, and you begin to see the outline of an invisible drought. Water sacrificed so machines can store ads, selfies, and AI prompts. If you live near a data center, you don't need anyone to explain the noise. You feel it. Day and night, the low mechanical roar of cooling fans and backup generators never ends. Residents in Northern Virginia, home to more than 150 data centers, describe it as a jet that never lands. Some of these places have decibel readings near local residents with limits of 55 decibels at night, yet Enforcement is almost impossible when the source hides behind corporate fences and sketchy legal barriers. It's not just the noise, it's the psychological erosion, a steady hum that replaces peace with anxiety. Progress shouldn't sound or feel like punishment. The transfer of wealth, it's not about inheritance, it's about extraction. When Amazon, Google, Apple, Meta, or whatever Musk is plotting, plan billion-dollar facilities, they virtually never pay anywhere near the real price. They negotiate secret deals for tax breaks, land, and discounted utilities, all funded by local taxpayers. And when the giveaways expire, they threaten to leave unless they get more. That's how community wealth becomes corporate capital. The jobs are temporary, the debt is permanent. The Federal Reserve reports that the top 1% of Americans hold roughly 1/3 of all U.S. wealth. That is disgusting. These deals widen that gap, shifting public resources from towns and schools to balance sheets in Silicon Valley or wherever headquarters might be. On a smaller scale, it's the same pattern as chain restaurants replacing family diners. The profits leave town the minute the cash register closes. Sure, a few jobs may be available, but the real wealth exits out the side door. By now, you're starting to understand the real reason for these NDAs. It's because people will fight back. In Prince William County, Virginia, residents discovered plans to rezone 2,000 acres of farmland to new data centers. They packed hearings, demanded environmental reviews, and in August of 2025, a judge voided the project's approvals. Public pressure worked. In Oregon's The Dalles, citizens won their lawsuit for water transparency, exposing how deeply the secrecy ran. And on the international stage, Ireland and the Netherlands both paused new hyperscale projects until their grids and communities could recover. Even U.S. states are catching on. Minnesota and Oregon are drafting laws to make corporations, not taxpayers, pay for the infrastructure they consume, as it should be. These are small steps, but they're real ones and they are significant. So, how can we stay hopeful when billion-dollar companies write secret deals and small towns have to foot the bill? Hope starts with exposure and understanding what the problem is. These projects thrive in darkness. Once light hits them, everything changes. Communities can demand transparency laws. No more NDAs for public development. People must demand that of their elected officials now. It's too late when the ink is dried. If an elected official can't discuss a deal with the people they represent, that deal probably shouldn't exist, ever. This is so important to all of us because it's not just about data and dollars, it's about democracy. Who decides what happens to our land, our water, and our future? Corporations will not protect those things. They can't. Only we can. If we stand together, share information, ask questions, file public record requests, attend the meetings where these things happen, the meetings that they don't want you at, then maybe, somehow, we can bend this story towards a more desirable outcome. Stay focused, stay safe, stay hopeful. McNutt out. I have to say that this information was inspired by a video I saw on a YouTube channel called More Perfect Union. It's a fantastic source of information. If you enjoy this kind of content, I suggest you check them out. I watch that channel all the time. They have great content, and it seems to be sourced very accurately, and they have a lot of hard-hitting news and journalism that you're just simply not going to find on mainstream media.